All right, so let's start with the big story that we're tracking on WION at this hour. The former American President Donald Trump will be hosting the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at his Palm Beach resort in Florida this week. And this comes as Netanyahu has arrived in Washington on Monday for a multi-day visit in the United States. The meeting with Donald Trump, which was originally slated for Wednesday, has now been shifted to Friday. The Republican presidential candidate announced on Truce Social that the postponement comes following a request from the Israeli leader. Before that, Netanyahu is scheduled to address a joint session of the Congress on Wednesday, and this will make him the only foreign leader to do so for the fourth time. He'll also be meeting with President Joe Biden on Thursday and will separately meet with Vice President Kamala Harris. Netanyahu's visit to the United States comes at a time when the Congress is deeply divided over his handling of the Gaza war. In fact, Kamala Harris is expected to take up the issue of the Gaza war during her meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister, asking him to stop the campaign of bombings over Gaza. Now, according to standard protocol, the Vice President is supposed to preside over the Congress address of the Israeli leader. However, she's expected to miss the session over an official trip. The Senate next in line will fulfill the role. Patty Murray has declined to attend over a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. This comes as various Democrats have announced the boycotting of the Congress session altogether because of Netanyahu.
Mr. President, I come to the floor today as a strong supporter of the U.S.-Israel relationship to talk about why it was such a big mistake to invite Prime Minister Netanyahu to address a joint session of Congress, and why I will not attend his speech tomorrow.
The groups of Democrat senators have confirmed that they would not be attending the session and will instead spend that time to meet with the families of the hostages. This comes as the bereaved families are staging protests across different locations in Washington. Jewish protesters, in fact, took to the Capitol Hill to demand for an immediate ceasefire, stating pretty clearly that this campaign of bombings that Israel has resorted on the Gaza Strip is not going to happen in their name, which is why they have this message on their shirts which says, "Stop arming Israel." These protests are expected to continue and could, of course, become even bigger until the Israeli Prime Minister's Congress address.
That's why I'm here today, protesting the genocide of the Palestinian people and calling on our government to enact an arms embargo on Israel and send no more weapons to the Israeli military.
Now, even at home in Tel Aviv, hundreds and in fact thousands of people marched to the Defense Ministry on Tuesday demanding for an immediate ceasefire ahead of the Israeli Prime Minister's address to the Congress.
Tomorrow, my Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, is going to have his speech in front of the Congress, and I'm really hopeful that tomorrow he's going to make us all feel whole again and tell us that the deal is taking place and that in the next week or two we are going to see our loved ones back with us.
Meanwhile, Netanyahu met with the families of hostages on Monday, where he hinted the possibility of a truce deal.
We are determined to bring them all back. The conditions to bring them back are ripening, for the simple reason that we are putting very, very strong pressure on Hamas, and we are seeing a certain change. And I think that this change will grow, and we intend to do it. This is a war goal.
And also for more on this, we spoke with our correspondent from the State of Israel, Jody Cohen, where we asked her what sort of a reception the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is likely to receive when he gives his address in Washington. Listen in.
Right, so protests have been planned to coincide with Netanyahu's historic fourth address to Congress. Now, these protests are expected to be somewhat mixed, with some pro-Palestinian, some pro-Israel but anti-Bibi, and families of some of the hostages are holding a vigil on the National Mall. Now, we also may see some protests on the Congress floor. Some Democrats already have said that they won't attend, but some might attend to protest in some way there. And House Speaker Mike Johnson has warned of a zero-tolerance policy for any disturbances. Now, commentators are suggesting that for most on the Congress floor, the speech is likely to be a show of support for Israel. Remember, Netanyahu was invited by both houses to speak. For Netanyahu, he said that his visit would demonstrate bipartisan support for Israel, and he said that his aims are to press for freeing the hostages held in Gaza and to build support for Israel to continue confronting Hamas, Hezbollah and other Iranian proxies in the region.
Now remember, for several months, there have been negotiations for a potential ceasefire deal, and our correspondent from Israel, Jody Cohen, tells us whether Netanyahu is expected to announce a hostage truce deal as part of his speech. Listen in.
Right, so the families of the hostages will certainly be praying that a deal is announced. President Biden has said the mediators are on the verge of a deal, but we know that the talks are expected to continue on Thursday, which seems to suggest that the deal is not ready. Now, Netanyahu is likely to talk about his principles for a deal in his address to Congress, and he's reportedly told families of the hostages in Washington that conditions are getting closer to a deal because of the IDF's military pressure. Now, he may also address the new Chinese brokered agreements between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, which could complicate the issue of governance in post-war Gaza. Now, Israel has denounced that agreement, and US State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller has said that Hamas is a terror group who should have no role in governing. Now, on Thursday, Netanyahu is meeting with President Biden and Vice President Harris at the White House. On Friday, he'll be meeting with former President Trump in Florida. Netanyahu has suggested that his key message of the trip is that the US and Israel are standing together no matter who Americans choose to be their next president.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.